Shalom to everybody out there. I hope you have a wonderful day. We are blessed, and I want to make sure that that comes across clear today. That we are blessed, and I know that some of this stuff for some people may be, well, it may even be to the point of almost being too heavy to deal with because of the changes. Uh, it's quite funny how source in the universe brings those things that are necessary to us. And so we've found out all kinds of things from Yeshua. You see in the text that we're reading on Wednesday nights how this Yeshua is given to us as a picture that is quite a bit different. You see the metaphysical aspects of his journey, of what was important, what wasn't important. And I don't know about you guys, but it's for me, it's been like a personal, how do you say it? A personal revelation of a new, totally different person. And that hasn't been any one thing. It's been all of them put together. So once again, if we could say so, people who desire truth, we are told that we will find, and we even see this pop up today. Yeshua, his teachings. But if you were blown away with some of the things that we read last week, I get it. Don't be surprised about it. But just as drastically different were these teachings than what we were taught that Jesus was, and even so, that they retained some of those pieces, but the interpretation of what those pieces meant ends up coming out a whole different picture than what was really being said. So, in my studies and stuff, it's been quite amazing, and I guess I hadn't, with all the new pope, and there's stuff that has come out of the Vatican with there being no pope, some pieces that have popped up that bring a little bit of insight. But there was really, just so that you understand historically, the book of John was just that we were blessed enough to read. It was just a wind sucker for me. I mean, it would take the wind right out of your sails and leave you asking a lot of questions. And I don't think that I historically really understood how much by Christianity John was hated. Uh, it was only through much arguing and fighting that they even put the book of Revelation in the Bible. And yet, even that is totally another encoded deception. Uh, the book of Revelation is as deep a mysticism as you can get, and at some point we probably will go through it from a mystical standpoint, and you will be amazed at all the words that you have locked in your memory that you find out are totally corrupt. That's not what was being said, nor was that what was intended at all. So, they had to keep John in there because he was too prominent of a teacher in the early church, and yet his doctrine is so contrary to Christianity, it's not even funny. And so we saw that. Today we're going to pick back up. We took off on the Gospel of Thomas, and just so that you know, there's another version or two different shorter texts that were found also. So all of these texts were circulating. Understand, and we used to at least be told this in Christianity, that if you were to, in the ancient times, if you were to possess what we would call a Bible, it would have taken you well over a year to amass enough funds to have bought it. So we live in a time where we're inundated with media. You can go to the dollar store and buy a King James Version Bible for, well, $1.25 now. I'm waiting. I wish they'd hurry up and change their name to the $1.25 store, because if they don't hurry, then it's going to be the $2 store. And so, but on the other side of it, I felt like I needed to share that with those of you who are seeing some truth in your mind is really, you know, what Yeshua said to us. He really meant that. The people that are listening will be troubled by some of these things, and it's not because maybe for some it will be questioning as to whether any of it's even true. I don't really have that problem. I know that in the middle of all of these texts there is truth. The problem is sorting out what's not, and or what has been added at a later date, and is that a difficult and imperfect journey? Well, of course it is, but that's why it's a journey. If you care enough to find the truth, then you will also learn along the way, which is the added bonus. You also get to learn what's not the truth, and so that prepares you for your own protection as well as for protecting other people. If you know what to call BS on, it's a whole lot easier not to get hung up in people's arguments and stupid conversations. So we have to be very careful of that. But when he told us that you will be troubled, and that's good. You notice that there wasn't anything, while what he said might be contrary to Christianity, there wasn't anything negative about his statement. He was warning us that this is going to happen to you if, but only if, you are a person that's following after, looking for truth. So, shalom to each and every one of us. If we might, we come together, and hopefully you'll attune your heart. You know, there's a lot of frequency that goes on with the heart. And then we just humbly bow to each other and we say, Namaste. So we were in the book of Thomas, and we're going to pick up at verse 18, or saying 18, I think would be the better way to say it, not necessarily verse. And so we have them, they're asking questions. This is, for us, is a really pretty place, because if we are followers, we maybe some of these same questions, and I love that we take off with this one. Number 18, verse 1. The disciples said to Jesus, "Tell us how our end will be." And so I think for all of us, I don't know whether we yet could be really classed as disciples of Jesus, but I think that that's certainly a piece of the journey for sure. And if not in actuality, that we're actually looking to follow him as master, because of many other things that actually occurred. He's definitely the master that's walking the path that we should be walking. And so however you want to view that. And so, but you notice that they're constantly asking questions. And when you hear people that are asking questions, that's good, because that typically means that they're thinking. But secondly, the fact that his closest followers were asking questions. So take yourself and put yourself where we're going to be here with Thomas and the disciples, and then look at the picture that you would get as far as Anna goes. You know, she's with him. She's one of those kind of people who would be in his presence as one of his disciples and would ask those questions. So, Master, what is, and so here's the statement. Tell us how our end will be. And Jesus sat down and he opened his King James Version Bible to the last chapter, and it said in the Revelation that there's a mark of the beast and the number is 616. Oh, I'm sorry, it's 666. Oh, well, we don't really know what the number is, but it's a number. And if you have that, then you are doomed. And that's really, metaphysically, that's totally the outcome there. Many people are not even aware that was originally interpreted as 616, not 666. So 666 is not the devil's number, even if the devil thinks it is. I love this stuff now when I look at these people and all of these heinous, horrible devil worshipers and stuff, and it's like, oh, dude, your dad's dead. You know, he never existed. That's you. The one that you serve is yourself. And we really don't understand that is what's being said. When you say the devil told you to do it, the devil is your subconscious mind. The higher mind only tells you the truth. And every one of us know it. So I used to say this, and now I realize that I was a lot more than I realized, that the true self knows. There's nothing. We have to go against our true self to do wrong, because it is in our nature to do right. Now, we've been programmed that it's not, that we're bad, we're corrupt, we only want to do the things that we shouldn't do. And while all humans do deal with that, your higher self is your guide. And as we learn, then you can look at some of the other teachings and doctrines and stuff that are going on there. And although I do know that there are some very, very gifted speakers that are sharing the truth, but to be quite honest with you, the spirit guides that you possess are actually your higher self. We linearly, that is to say, we need a line to tie something to. Some people still have a picture of God the Father sitting in a big throne like David had. That was a metaphoric picture that David had. That was David's way of making sense of this God that doesn't exist in that manner. He's not a man sitting on a throne in the heavens and his robe fills the temple with glory. Those are metaphors at best. And so the disciples said to Jesus, "Tell us how our end will be." I think that probably has been a question that humanity has had since the very beginning of time. What's going to become of me? What happens? Do we just live and die? And since we find out that these people weren't stupid 200,000 years ago, that they had intelligence and were making tools and were working and were functioning, even if they weren't genetically us. And so Yeshua answers. He says, "Have you discovered the beginning?" So they ask a question. How will our end be? He answers with a question. And he says, "Have you discovered the beginning?" And, most people would go, "Okay, well, enough of the rhetoric. Just tell me the answer to the question that I'm seeking." But oftentimes telling people the answer to the question that they ask is not what is beneficial. And one thing that you will learn, that the creative essence of who we are, the light that we are, the higher self, doesn't always have a desire to give you what you feel desperately that you need. You hear this a lot if you Lisa Wetzel, who teaches a lot on the Akashic record. Every time that I've watched her enter into the Akashic record, she always tells whoever she's working with, she tells the person, "Look, they're not going to tell you what you want to hear." And so if we're a heads up human being, then we would begin to say, well, I keep seeing this surface and pop up everywhere, that the universe tells me something, but the universe almost never deals with me how I want to be dealt with. And so what is the purpose? What is the cause of that? It is for us to recognize that truth and knowledge and wisdom comes from our ability to humble ourselves. Most people like to have conversation and call themselves humble while they're arguing about how their belief is right and yours is wrong. And there's nothing humble about that. It's all ego. I don't need to be right. Can we know we're right? I absolutely believe that that's true. But I think it's more a picture of how you know you're right. And so he says, "Have you discovered the beginning?" And so I will pose that question to all of us. We're back at the front again. Have we even begun to desire to know what is the beginning? Where did I come from? And we had all of these silly questions answered for us growing up, and now all of a sudden we find that all of those truths were not truths at all. And at best, they were simply statements that contained a smidgen of truth. It's like the movie that says based on true story, but then you hear the person who was in the story and they go, well, really, it wasn't anything like that. It goes on all the time. And so, have you discovered the beginning? Pause. Then, so that you are seeking the end? Have we even discovered the beginning? Where did we come from? What are we? I think that humans, we can say that we're humans, but if you say that you're human, then you're carnal. And we don't really realize that this is such a temporary state in the scheme of longevity. If it really is true that we have had an unknown, I'll just say, choose whatever number fits right with you, that you've lived 10 lives. 10 lives is still a pretty good while compared to one life. So maybe 800 years versus 80 years. But on the other side, what if we really have been much longer term? What if we've been coming in and out of bodies, gaining access to truth and information lived out experientially? And what if we've been doing that for tens of thousands of years? That this isn't like your 10th time of coming in, you've been in 1,000 times. For us, it just almost seems unimaginable, because to us, living a life that's 80 years long seems like forever. And yet it really is nothing in the scheme of time. And so, have you discovered the beginning? Then, so that you are seeking the end? And of course, the answer to the question, as he already knew, was no, they hadn't. They hadn't even begun the journey. And they're already worried about what's going to come to the end of it. What if we determined that we wanted to find out what is our purpose being here? And that's a strange statement, really, metaphysically, but it still is the way that we voice things. So what is the purpose for me coming in? Even if I accept reincarnation over resurrection, that was a very good statement you made, Brother Clifford. You know, we were told by Christianity that we were going to be raised again. And the truth is we've been being born and raised again for as long as we've existed. And so, for where the beginning is, the end will be. That's a strange statement. Maybe you have an opinion about what you think that means, and you may very well be right. Please understand, there are right and wrong answers. Whether or not we have those, that's the different question. For where the beginning is where the end will be. So then all we need to find out what is going to be the end, friend, is to find out where we begun. And we'll know what the end is. We know, I feel quite confident that I know that the end, and I now embrace some things with drastically different excitement, that I know that the end of this lifetime that I'm living now in this human body, while I won't ever come back into this human body once I cease and it's destroyed or returns to earth, I fully suspect I will come back in another body and I will do this over. And so where is the beginning? The beginning is not something that happens in the physical body. It never was. We were from everlasting to everlasting, and we will remain from everlasting to everlasting. And so wherein then is the beginning, and that's the point he's trying to get you to understand. You keep trying to define your life based on the life you lived in this body. You don't even know where your life began, because it wasn't as a human. And when you see that, that's really quite earth-shaking if you do give heed and pay attention It's funny, one of my horoscopes said this morning to focus on talking to the people that are listening and forget about the ones that aren't. That's the second time I've had that message come through to me. And so, blessed is the one who stands at the beginning. That one will know the end and will not taste death. So out of Yeshua's own words, he just told us that there is something. Now, I don't say there isn't a cessation. And so this is a piece I'm trying to tread very lightly on, because there's glimpses, and Yeshua gives us some pieces today that should trouble us. It should make you wonder, okay, we have this whole class of people out there who are selling the sloppy grace message. They call it New Age movement. And the New Age movement says that everything that has been is no longer any good, and nothing that happens again. Everything that's going on now is new. And I'm not quite sure I buy that, to be quite honest with you. I'm desirous of finding what the ancients knew. I'm not desirous to find out what new people are telling me, that everything is all good and wonderful, and you know, there's no negative anywhere. Without negative, there is no positive, friends. So that tells me right there that it's a lie. If there is a positive, there is a negative. And so, from where the beginning is, the end will be. You want to find out what your end is? Your end is to return back to what you were before you came into this life. And that's the whole cycle. So he just, in a simple, silly little statement, he just gave you the whole pattern of our life. And then watch how he finishes it. Blessed is the one who stands at the beginning. That one will know the end and will not taste death. So when you can see that, the one who knows where the beginning is and what the beginning is will always return to the beginning. There is no end of that cycle. It's not the death of your body is the end of your life. In fact, quite the opposite. And so,
but the other end of that scale is
right.
Cursed is the one who doesn't stand at the beginning.
Right, because they're lost.
Yeah.
And so number 19, Yeshua says, blessed is the one who came into being before coming into being. So you see that he hasn't changed his thought process. So what is he telling us? Folks, that's right there. Do you understand now why Christianity does not want you to read this? Blessed is the one who came into being before coming into being. So the one who knew, who lived, who existed before they became this. Once again, how might this affect you? If you believe that it's appointed unto every man once to die and then the judgment, and that is a true statement. But it's a useless true statement, and it's very easy to manipulate unless you're giving the corroborating evidence. Okay? It is appointed when you come in once for this body to die. They don't know that because they condemn reincarnation as being some kind of demon worship or witch doctor medicine. But is this the only one? That's the key question. And so Jesus said, blessed is one who came into being before coming into being. Blessed is the one, well, we all existed like that, but I think it's very simple for many of you to understand that most people really, that revelation, they don't have it. Maybe for us, we're still struggling with getting that information. I try to tell myself, I don't know that I'm successful all the time, but I try to tell myself every single day, you are an eternal being and you are everlasting. And yes, it's a known that this body's going to collapse and die, and that's okay because I will not cease to exist. I will continue on. And so think about that revelation. If I haven't gotten anything else in these 60 years that I've lived this life, and I picked that piece up in this life that I didn't have in the last life, folks, I've made some huge strides and wisdom. And those little things that come into your mind from your higher self, oftentimes it will be something that's so simple and yet something that's so deep and so heavy that will be the thing that will help you. Hopefully you'll use it in that manner. It will be the thing that will help you to find peace with it. Why? Because now a lot of things that used to matter don't matter anymore. It's okay, guys. I mean, you know, I'm not going to run outside and jump in front of a car just to see if I go through the truck, you know. I mean, if that happens, great and wonderful. I'm all great with that. But on the other side, I don't have any pre-bent purpose to go kill this physical body. I don't believe I've finished my journey. I believe there's much more for me to do. Why would I then intentionally try to damage what Source has me here for in the first place? And so, you know, there's lots of silly people out there. And so he says, if you become my disciples and listen to my sayings, these stones will serve you. Many different facets of that we could look at and explore. And there are mystical meanings to every one of these things. Just so you know, the problem is we read things with no knowledge of what the mystical meaning of those things are. And once you find out that all of these people, John was a mysticist, John the Baptist was a mysticist, the Essenes were mystical. They know that about the Essenes. See, we came into a time where people interpreting the Dead Sea Scrolls are trying to interpret the Dead Sea Scrolls as these things were literal. And to be quite honest with you, some of the most mystical people in all of Israel were the Essenes. And so when you hear about that they were waiting on the heavenly army of angels who were going to come down, that's the picture, because that's our understanding, because everything that most people in this world now do is biased through the picture at some shape or form, and at some level you're biased through the interpretation of Christianity. Those people never had no picture of that. They understood the spirit realm and that spirit realm does exist. And they lived in it. As it's pretty easy to tell from our read and our study through, with just the little bit that we were blessed with to give. I was hoping that Saudi would be another 3 books, personally. I mean, I got to say, because I read with you guys what Saudi said about the ancient batteries and lights that they had. And I went and researched. They had that stuff thousands of years before Saudi lived. They found it in Egypt, still in working order. Wow. And we've been told that we were the one, you know, Albert Einstein, or who was it? Thomas Edison is the one that developed the light bulb. Friend, sorry, the light bulb was 5,000 years old by the time he lived. It wasn't new technology. Lost to us, yes. But I think the questions we should really learn about these things is when something exists pre-us and we've been told our whole life that it never existed, maybe we ought to start questioning the people that are giving us this historical narrative, which is why history is so important. Those who we are doomed to repeat what has happened before. And inevitably, there will be, for whatever weird reason, I don't totally understand why people do this, but history will be rewritten for the victor, and that totally throws away the knowledge, which is what they did here. The battle with Christianity, friends, was against mystic Christians. They could not have the mysticism in Christianity and people believe their narrative. Had they taught the mysticism, there would have never been a Catholic Church and there would never have been a need for a pope. And Snoop Doggie's smoke going up might have been the more important thing. And so, if you become my disciples and listen to my sayings, did you hear that? Did you notice that he never one time said, and follow what the Jews say, or follow what the Torah says, or follow what Christianity says, or follow what the Bible says? No, he gives us a very simple. Why? Because he knew the purity of his doctrine, which is we are the I am. He told us that in many places. He said, do you not know that you are little Elohim? Do you not know that you are little gods? Has that not entered into your mind that you are a spiritual creative being? And the answer is no, it hasn't. See, one of the things that I'm starting to see is this creativity inside of us is actually what is being sold now and making lots of people lots of money teaching people how to manifest. Manifestation is learning the laws of how to order creation. So when you learn to manifest, you have learned how all humanity has always created the things that they need, and it comes from the mind. That is manifestation, but it's really our creative force that we have. And all of us have it. Many will never find it. Even less will use it. And so if you become my disciples and listen to my sayings, these stones will serve you, and much greater than that. For there are 5 trees in paradise for you. They do not change summer or winter, and their leaves do not fall. And so that's a study that I'm on right now, is the 5 trees in paradise. Whoever knows them will not taste death. The disciples said to Jesus, tell us what heaven's kingdom is like. And Yeshua, he said to them, it is like a mustard seed. It is the smallest of all seeds, but when it falls on prepared soil, it produces a large plant and becomes a shelter for birds of heaven. And if you notice there, it is the same teaching that you get in the Bible, but friends, there's some really subtle words in there that change the concept of that picture pretty drastically. And the first one being is his statement about where that seed must be planted. Nothing else is important. Those seeds can fall on unprepared soil, and those seeds are useless. They never produce. But see, that was wiped out in the Bible because they wanted you to believe that everybody could manifest that. Do we have the opportunity for everyone to manifest that? Yes. But the problem is this soil must be properly prepared before you're capable of manifesting. And that immediately right there cuts everyone else who has not prepared their soil. It cuts them out of being able to manifest. And so what you see is rather than God has made this dogmatic rule about you're bad and you're good, that all is determined by us. It's not determined by God. God doesn't have a destiny for you to be some horrible human. We all have the same capability. But we can only access those capabilities outside of the carnal mind. It has to be spiritual. And so, tell us what heaven's kingdom is like. And he said, it is like a mustard seed. It is the smallest of all seeds. And everybody gets hung up on that. I heard that in church my whole life. Oh, brother, it's, faith like a mustard seed. Faith in what? Faith in what? I have faith that the sun's going to come out sometime. Maybe not today, but I have faith that it's going to rain again sometime. See, that's the problem. If you take generic terms and give them no connotation, the mass majority of people stay in wandering, blithering idiots with no knowledge of what truth even is. And they do that to people intentionally. Because you'll walk around talking about how much faith you have. What do you have faith in? What is your faith? Oh, well, I'm a Christian. Good luck with that one. I'm sure you won't quite find that verse anywhere outside of the Bible. And then we get the key. But when it falls on prepared soil, it produces a large plant and becomes a shelter for birds of heaven. There's a connotation there of the birds of heaven as well. And so Mary said to Yeshua, "What are your disciples like?" Let's find out what Yeshua's disciples were like. He said, "They are like children living in a field that is not theirs." So dig this picture, because it's actually, to me, it's quite beautiful. If I'm a true follower of Yeshua, then I am like a child that is down here playing in somebody else's field, and I'm only going to have 80 years to play in this field, and then I'm going to go away to my field, but then I'm going to come back to this field again, and I'll play again. And so think about it. Wouldn't it be amazing if we came in with the knowledge that life is supposed to be a game to be enjoyed? What if it really was? I'm here to explore. I'm here to see all of the things that the creative force put here for us to utilize, and instead I was beat into submission from the day I was born. That's why you have children, and this is, to me, is one of the largest heartbreakers psychically that there is, that we have so many children that come into our society that see spirits and talk to spirits and can have all of these what we call ghosts and manifestations functioning, and they see them and see them as literal as their own mother is standing in the kitchen, and yet those children, by the time they're 15, 20 years old, they have no belief in the spirit world. Just a piece so that you understand this. To be part of the kingdom of heaven, you must be as a little child. That has many takes, but I want you to understand this, that the only one that is accurate is the metaphysical or mystical understanding of that being like a child. And we can take the things that we see and we can form an understanding of what was meant there. What are little children like? Well, first off, most children don't have any prejudices. We have to be taught prejudice. And then secondly, we come in and we have psychic powers. We have knowing that we know something happened before, but you've never been here before, right? So how do you have any recollections of anything before? If you were only just created. And this doesn't happen every now and then. This happens way too often. We have children who are speaking to spirit forces, but, those things aren't real. We need to send her to a psychiatrist because she's having problems because she's seeing, she has a fake play partner. So when you hear Yeshua say that you must be like the children, what he's actually telling you is you must be awake and open to the spirit realm if you want to enter into the kingdom. That's a lot bigger than I'm getting paid for. You must be like a child. How are children? If anybody had a mind to learn, you would sit down and you would begin a study that would last the rest of your life about finding out about children. You don't know anything. Most parents have no idea about a child. We watch these shows by the hundreds on here about little children, and the parents beat literally into submission. They make their child and everybody around them who also has been brainwashed out of the truth of our psychic capabilities. Remember, I showed you a few weeks ago, we were created psychically first before we were ever put in a human body. And if you ever even begin a little bit to believe that, it will begin the beginning of the revelation of your life. We function in a carnal realm. Paul talked about this openly in the Bible, and he was speaking metaphysically. You cannot be carnal and enter the kingdom of our Creator. You can't do it. Your carnality is an enemy against your spirit, friends. Your mind is an enemy against your spirit higher self. Whether you want to believe that or not, Carl Jung didn't miss it when he said, your shadow. I didn't miss it when I tell you that your inner self is your lower inner self. Your subconscious is the devil. And it's the one who makes you do it. So that actually is a true statement. So all of this that Yeshua is saying here about this mustard seed all predicates and all hangs on only one condition. You notice he didn't say anybody else. It's only, this will only happen. This will only manifest itself in the people who have prepared their soil. Well, you might do some research and find out about how you prepare your soil. That's your job, not mine. I'm actually giving you how to prepare it, but you just have to extract that. And so for those who do, then guess what happens? It produces a large seed, and then it is a blessing to many. And so she asked, what are your disciples like? And he says, they are like children living in a field that is not theirs. So this isn't your home. In fact, there used to be an old Negro spiritual song. It went like this. It said, this world is not my home. I'm just a passing through. We used to sing that in a Pentecostal church. Had no clue, and neither did anybody else singing that song, how right that song was. That is a true statement. This is not your home. You're just simply passing through. They should have continued to sing many of those spiritual songs. And when the owners of the field come, they will say, give your field back to us. So what does that tell us? What metaphorically can you see that those words that he just said might mean? That the owners of this world at some point will come back and return to take back authority over this place. So when people talk about the ones that are flying the angels, you know, the protons that we call angels, that are really just messengers, they're just messages sent through the Akashic. That's why, you know, these things always manifest in a cyclical. As far as I know, nobody's ever seen Michael the Archangel, but he's everywhere, all over, and has been for as long as humans have been existed. What is he? He is a particle of energy. He is a messenger. He went to Daniel and gave Daniel a message. He said, oh, Daniel, since the very second you first spoke, and that wasn't a physical speaking, that was the first second that Daniel opened his heart to the universe. A little piece of manifestation you might begin. You might quit trying to pray to God, and you might ought to begin to have relationship with the universe which exists. You'll be amazed at how much that'll change some things for you. Because as long as you function in this paradigm of God, you only view things through the Christian eyes of there is a man, there is a God, there is a thing that you're praying to. And friends, the universe is all. And so when the owners of the field come, they will say, give our field back to us. And take off their clothes in front of them in order to give it back to them, and they return their field to them. Do you see what they're saying? When these return, then we're all going to take our clothes. Peter talked about this metaphysically. It's in the common New Testament. Peter says that I must put off this robe that I have on. What is he talking about? He's talking about what Yeshua is talking about right here. When those spirit forces, those alien beings, if you want to call them, when they come to reclaim the earth, they're going to say, we want our earth back, and we're all going to take our bodies off. They're going to fall to the ground dead, and we will once again be light, and we will return from whence we came. That's that. You want to know the end of us, that's the end of us. We simply return to light. And they take off their clothes in front of them in order to give it back to them. So how we give them the earth back is by taking off our clothes in front of them. Now, if you just read that literally, you're going, wow, man, these guys like to have orgies and all kinds of things. They all want to get naked. And we will be naked, but it won't have anything to do with sex. We truly will return to the form that should have been presented as the metaphor of Adam and Hua. Adam and Hua, friends, were spirit light in the metaphor. And they put on clothes. See, the whole concept when it says that God made them clothes, do you know what the clothes were? The skins of the animals, and that story has morphed itself, means he gave them a human body, is what was trying to be portrayed to us. Before then, they were light. They were pure. They were light. And we are the same thing now. And so they take off their clothes in front of them in order to give it back to them, and they returned their field to them. For this reason I say, if the owner of a house knows that a thief is coming, he will be on guard before the thief arrives, and will not let the thief break into the house of his estate and steal his possessions. So yet again, another metaphor told through a totally literal story. If you don't know, you'll think this is literal. This story is actually taken from Thomas's writings, is actually rewritten in the New Testament. Only I believe the story is put to us maybe through Paul, but it's the same story. And as for you, so I told you a literal story with a metaphoric meaning. Now I'm going to give you, if you have ears to hear, and you will understand. As for you, then be on guard against the world. Be on guard against the world. Arm yourselves with great strength, or the robbers might find a way to get to you. Huh? Did I jump off for 5? I'm sorrowful. For this reason I say, if the owner of a house knows that a thief is coming, he will be on guard before the thief arrives, and will not let the thief break into the house of his estate and steal his possessions. As for you, then be on guard against the world. Arm yourselves with great strength, or the robbers might find a way to get to you. For the trouble you expect will come. Let there be among you a person who understands. And so when the crop is ripened, the person came quickly with sickle in hand and harvested it. Whoever has ears to hear should hear. Jesus saw some babies nursing, and he said to his disciples, these nursing babies are like those who enter the kingdom. And what does that invoke in your mind? What do you see that as? Because, you know, it's such a figurative picture. It could mean anything. It could mean that we're totally needy. There really are lots of ways that statement could be defined depending on what it means to you. The question isn't, do you have a feeling for it? Maybe you do, but the question is, are we getting the right feeling? And many times it will be many of the feelings. And so these nursing babies are like those who enter the kingdom. Well, I think it's safe to say that nursing babies are unknowledgeable about where things come from. Sometimes, let's see, but he's probably not telling us that, because he tells us that we should have knowledge. So that might be wrong. What if it was that those nursing babies simply trusted the universe for the provision that they would need? They have no worries and no concerns. We get mad at children as they grow up. You need to learn to have responsibility. Anybody ever told their child or grandchild that you need to learn responsibility? You understand that that is yet again another propagation of the pushing out of. That is another piece of the psychical brainwashing. What if we all came to the place where we just truly trusted the universe and what we needed manifested, and we didn't have to do all of these things that we are programmed by humanity to do. That would be more like a little child. We simply trusted the universe. For those of you who haven't quite caught it yet, there's a real paradigm that's going on, a real paradigm shift that's happening inside of me, the difference between serving a God and understanding the universe. And until you understand the universe, you will be pretty much lost. This thing works, friends. It's been working. It's worked for so long. It's infallible. But we make it fallible by making it human. And so hopefully there is one amongst us who understands. When the crop ripened, the person came quickly with sickle in hand and harvested it. Whoever has ears to hear should hear. I think there's a concept of that for you as you begin to awaken and as you begin to ascend. Okay, you could say of Yeshua was harvested quickly. He came, he did his work, and he was gone. The crop was over with. And that's very much how our lives will function if we allow them to. And so they said to him, then shall we enter the kingdom as babies? And Jesus said to them, when you make the two into one, and when you make the inner like the outer, and the outer like the inner, and the upper like the lower, and when you make male and female into a single one, so that the male will not be male, nor the female be female. Now, all of that had to be hidden from you because they do not want you to understand this concept. Why is it, and I've talked to enough people now, when I mentioned my past life that I was a female, it would blow your mind how many people immediately turn off. I don't want to talk no more. And it's because of the brainwashing and the programming that we have had. The truth is gender means nothing. Gender is something that you are genderless outside of this human body. You're neither male nor female. You're spirit. You're light. And so we're all hung up. There are people who believe that this whole mixing and flowing and intermeshing and changing and people struggling with their inner, what they call their inner selves, that all of those, whether you want to hear it or not, that is actually part of the manifestation of enlightenment. I've been guilty multiple times of saying myself, well, if this crap that's going on in our society continues to go on, 10 years from now, there won't be no male or female. And I may not have had knowledge of how right I really am. If it is true, I don't say it is, so please don't get me wrong. I don't say that it is. There was obviously a reason in our human incarnation that sex, gender, was an important facet, or it would have never been designed into us. We would have all just been beings. So there is certainly a purpose to it, and I do think that it's a purpose that is for our human incarnation. So that's important. You live in this thing for 80 years. For you in the light world, it might be a split second, but for us, 80 years is a long time. And so when you make eyes in place of an eye, plurals in place of a singular is a piece of the concept here. When you make plural in place of a singular. And so can I give you a little insight to what he's trying to say to us? We are neither, we are both. I'll say it again. When you make eyes in place of an eye. So when you make plural in place of a singular is what could be said there to try to help you maybe understand what he's trying to get us to get a hold of. When you make eyes in place of an eye, a hand in place of a hand, a foot in place of a foot, an image in place of an image, then you will enter the kingdom. When you begin to see that we are all the same. We are all one. And there is no gender. Gender is a human condition. And so Yeshua says, I shall choose you, one from 1,000 and two from 10,000. And they will stand as a single one. Once again, plural into singular. What is he trying to get us to see? That we both have feminine and masculine. That is our makeup. We are not incomplete beings. To be a female spiritually, you would be an incomplete being. You must possess the masculine. You must, if you're a male, you must possess the feminine in the spirit realm. That is to say, outside of this physical body. And then you will stand. You will truly, we will, as humanity, will begin to understand that we all are the same. And that's really hard. I don't know how many of you might have been troubled by some of the things, but these are pieces that have to be thought about, friends, and they're really difficult to deal with. We have such paradigm, and yes, there's a new paradigm being propagated by the liberals. And so he says, I will call one from 1,000 and two from 10,000, and they will stand as a single one. Well, stop and ponder that a second. One from 1,000 and two from 10,000, and those three will stand together as one. What happens to all of the others? Remember, if he called you out of 10,000, there's a reason why there were 10,000. And so his disciples said, show us the place where you are, for we must seek it. Yeshua says, he said to them, whoever has ears to hear, there is light within a person of light. Oh my God, this is one of the most beautiful pieces that there is, friend. There is light within a person of light. Whether you can deal with it or not, there actually is room in here for just exactly with the last statement that he just made. And maybe it is true. Maybe the modern New Age thing is that everybody's going to be saved inevitably. It's just a matter of how long it takes for you to get there. And I hope that that's the case. But I have to tell you, Yeshua is constantly putting separations between those of light and those who aren't. I don't necessarily know what it means. I tell people, I don't know how you explain that. We'll just have to wait and see how it works. What I can be assured of is that if I know where I'm at and what I am, then no matter what that means, it won't matter. That's the important point. And so he says, there is light within a person of light. You remember I told you the other day, and this isn't something that you say it, although sometimes you have to say it till you believe it, okay? But you won't say it until you believe it if you don't believe it in the first place. And so I'm kind of splitting hairs, but they're really significant. There is light within a person of light. So once again, here is a division line that gets thrown out there in front of you. Why didn't he say that there is light in all people? Because it doesn't seem to be that's what he's saying. That's not what he's saying. He's saying there is light in 1 in 1,000 and 2 in 10,000. He said to them, whoever has ears to hear, there is light within a person of light, and it shines on the whole world. If it does not shine, it is darkness. How many times have you heard about if the eye be single, then you know, and if the eye isn't single, then how great is the darkness? This whole metaphor thing was put in the New Testament with no explanation of what's actually being said. Of course you couldn't have figured it out. And so if it does not shine, then how dark is your light? That was the statement that he made in the New Testament. If your light be darkness, how dark is your light? And Jesus said, love your sibling like your soul. Protect that person like the pupil of your eye. He really, this whole thing about love your neighbor as yourself, friend, I've been on a journey for several years now of recognizing we don't really understand. We're not getting all that he's really saying there. And this just validates that my troubling that has always been about that is absolutely correct. It's intuition. It comes from my higher self, keeps telling me you don't quite understand yet. You don't quite understand yet. You haven't found the answer. You're not right. Some of those things you find the answer and peace like a river flows. But some of those things are troubling. Jesus said, love your sibling like your soul. Protect that person like the pupil of your eye. Wow. That's pretty huge. Jesus said, you see the speck that is in your sibling's eye? Understand, he ties, it's not just the speck in other people's eyes. He's doing this on purpose, he's intentionally saying your sibling. Now, I have a belief that the concept of sibling is because we're all from the same all. But the significance of that concept is applicable even if you're not aware of the all. But you do not of your own eye. But you do not see the beam that is in your own eye. When you take the beam out of your own eye, then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your sibling's eye. And I used to hear people all the time, and there's one major denomination of Christianity that's really big about this. Well, I don't preach much, but, I don't do much. And that's not the motivating power here. The motivating power is the commandment for you to clean yourself up so you can help somebody else. And if you're not doing that, you've missed the whole point of life anyways. It's all self-centered. All you care about is you, instead of caring about the others as much as you care. If you cared about everybody else like you cared about your own soul, I guarantee you could not treat people the way you do. So it's a lie. And so you see the speck that is in your sibling's eye, but you do not see the greater mass that's in your own. I teach these things all the time. You don't look at yourself. You look at everybody else. You can tell what everybody else's flaws are, but you can't tell what your own flaws are. Which is why the brother Yaakov said that you must be able to see yourself honestly, or you will never be healed. Which goes back to what you were at the beginning. All of these concepts are strands that all tie back to who we are outside of this human body. And so when you take the beam out of your own eye, then that's the end of it, right? Now you're perfect. Now you can really cut everybody else to pieces. Now you're really so much better than all of them because you took the beam out of your eye. Well, the problem is you didn't get the beam out. It still exists right where it was in your mind. Because if you had taken the beam out, then you would have immediately saw that the purpose of you taking the beam out wasn't so that you could condemn, it was so that you could help. The purpose of the beam and the speck, friend, is about us caring enough and being able to be honest with ourselves so that we can help somebody else. It's not about condemning them. It's about helping them. Christianity is real big on condemning. You're going to hell. They're not doing anything to help anybody. That's how I know it's fake. And so he says, if you do not fast from the world, you will not find the kingdom. What does that mean? What might it mean? What might be the greater mystical understanding of fasting from the world? If you do not fast from the world, you will not find the kingdom. Wow, that's an imperative coming from the ascended master Yahusha. Tells us categorically, you will never find the kingdom until you begin to pull yourself away from the world. If you do not observe the Sabbath as a Sabbath, you will not see the Father. There's a huge piece about resting. The metaphysical walk is all about resting. It's all about why is it important that we meditate and we rest and we calm and we peace, and why are all of those things so prominent for the spiritual person? Do you remember he said there is a rest, but I won't talk about it? You know why they don't want you to talk? They don't want to talk about it because they don't want you to know that the only way to find true peace is inside. They keep you from that. They lock the door to the kingdom from you by telling you that you should pray to this Jesus that will take care of all your problems and this God who will take care of all your problems, instead of the truth is that God is in you, and the only way you'll ever have a relationship with him is when you go inside of you. Most people I know don't have a relationship with their Creator. They have a relationship with the metaphorical God that sits up in a throne in the heavenlies. So in other words, they have a relationship with nothing. So if you do not fast from the world, you will not find the kingdom. If you do not observe the Sabbath as a Sabbath, you will not see the Father. Well, we know that the Sabbath is rest. He's already told us, as I've already stated to you, that you must enter into a rest. That rest, friend, is inside of you in meditation. That is the rest that you must enter into. And Jesus said, I took my stand in the midst of the world, and in flesh I appeared to them. I found them all drunk, and I did not find any of them thirsty for the truth. He says, I came and I walked around. I went all the way from being light to forcing myself, cramming myself into a human body, and came down here, and all I found was a bunch of mindless moron drunks. That's all. I did not find any of them thirsty. My soul ached for the children of humanity. This isn't about Jews, friends. This is about humanity. He didn't just preach to the Jews. He was preaching to the world. Because they are blind in their hearts and they do not see. I can't think of anything that Yeshua ever said that moves me more than this. I've read this. I couldn't tell you how many times that I've read this piece right here, and it just totally blows me away about what he was. I took my stand in the midst of the world, and in flesh I appeared to them. He lowered himself to the lowest possibility, which is to put on a human body. He says, I did all of this for you. And all I did was found you all drunk. And I did not find any of them that were thirsty. They were all full of the world. They were all drunk on the things of the world. They were all drunk on humanity. They were all drunk on ego. They were all drunk on self. Everything that he preached against. And my soul ached for the children of humanity. Because they are blind in their hearts and they do not see. For they came into the world empty, and they also seek to depart from the world empty. But now they are drunk. And so what he just painted for us is a picture of how most people come in. You come in, you're empty, you're totally void. You go through your whole life drunk and you leave just like you came in. You understand wisdom and knowledge are the guide. But now they are drunk, and when they shake off their wine, then they will repent. Jesus said, if the flesh came into being because of spirit, it is a marvel. But if spirit came into being because of the body, it is a marvel of marvels. Yet I marvel at how this great wealth has come to dwell in this poverty. Jesus said, where there are three deities, they are divine. Where there are two in one, I am with that one. Jesus said, a prophet is not acceptable in the prophet's own town. A doctor does not heal those who know the doctor. Any of your minds buzzing? I suspect maybe there's some that would say, well, I think I have lived my life in a drunken manner. I just went through life, all of us trying to go through life, trying to live. I look back at some things now that I guess all humans, maybe we've all had. And I look back and I just ponder, I go, man, why, what a waste. What a waste. I mean, what happens to all of your stuff if you die tomorrow? Who cares? You ain't there no more. Somebody else is going to get it and probably sell it. Happens all the time. Families have a patriarch who worked their whole life, created great sums of wealth. Everything they worked for, the children do what? As soon as they die, they sell it. Most people don't want what somebody else has. They want what they want. And so, if we come in and we seek the things that are above and not the things that are below, then we truly have begun the journey of awakening. What are the things that are above? Many people probably can't answer that question reasonably. What are the things? Well, I guess the only way you would ever find that out would be to find out who your higher self is and ask them, right? I showed you that the higher self never lies and they never change the story. So that means the story of the human higher self has always existed. And really you could sum it up in being a child. I can more see why he used that metaphor so powerfully, although most people don't even have a clue about what it's about. We're like little children when we come in. We're perfect. And we come into this horrible, poverty-ridden cesspool called humanity. A bunch of people that are put down here to learn a test in the highest, thickest density that you can exist. Vibrations get quelled. Boy, we bounce around like amazing little atoms up there when we're in our light form. And we come into this. How many of you'd be honest enough to say that you have mental things that you believe were probably existent with you that you were struggling with from another life when you came into this? Any of you have a struggle that's been with you through your whole life and you can't figure out why? Guys, this is one of the coolest things about all of this teaching. I'm watching this stuff manifest now. I watch it with little bitty children. It really, I get why Yeshua constantly played on the little children. Because if you can find out what's going on in a little child, you'll find out what was before. I asked a question recently about a little child, and I said, how on earth does a child that age get that much hate and anger inside of them? They have nothing to hate and anger. What basis in 2 or 3 years of your life would you have for hating and having such anger? And yet, look at it's inundating our society, friends. Maybe some of you have children and grandchildren. You just can't make out why this child is so unhappy, so horribly unhappy, and why they're so mad, and why they're so angry, and yet it seems as if everything in their life at least they've been loved and taken care of. Every one of us came in with those things already in us. Wow. You think it might have been a better deal if we were teaching the true spiritual truths so that when we saw that and recognized that in a child, having cleaned the speck from our eye, that we could take that child and tell them and love them and show them how to not live a horribly unhappy life and live their whole life doing all the stupid wrong things? I think if you'll pay attention, you'll actually will see, or at least that's been my journey. I've actually begun to see that. And then what happened out of watching children and recognizing, and actually, as he said, marveling. And I went, wow. How could a child be that unhappy in 3 years of lifetime when they've been given everything that they need? They don't have to ask for food. They don't worry about clothing. They don't pay bills. What did this kid have that could cause them such inner unhappiness? It has to come from somewhere. And in 3 years of a child's life, there's typically not the time for them to have gained that. So that means they came into this earth with that. Wow. So how might we then be able, you want to know why we have such mental illness problems, and we do live in a society that, and yes, I agree that food dyes and all the poison in our foods is affecting our mental capacities. I have no problems agreeing with that. But past those things, which happen typically once you're alive, what about the ones that happen before you were alive? What if we knew how to deal with those? You see Saudi so adjusted and so capable in spirit things. He just those things happen without any blockage between him and his higher self. And so the answer to the question is they intentionally hid that from us. How much might we help children? And I do believe that it will continue, and I do believe that Source wants it to continue, of us learning. And so please get the revelation. If I don't give you anything else today, this was worth my time. The purpose of the beam is for you, so you can be worthy to help other people. And if you don't have a heart to help other people, you've already answered the first question. You have no other purpose on this earth but to help other people. Maybe sometimes we should diagnose our own self-centeredness. Maybe we shouldn't have to have somebody else tell us that we're self-centered and that we don't care about anything but ourselves. It will go a long ways towards opening the dam of blessing that Source has provided. It's everywhere for us. The only thing keeping it out is our minds. And there's been lots of work to help us do that. So just remember, you're not the only one. In fact, you're a long ways from the only one. Now, you might be the only one in your area that's desirous to learn the truth, and if that's you, then you truly have begun an amazing journey. It will be well worth it. when it's all over with. And so, peace to each and every one of you. I know it seems like we didn't get very far today, and I hope that's okay with you, because it's certainly okay with me. I'm not in a race. My journey goes till my journey doesn't, and then when it doesn't matter, because I ain't here anyway. I'll come back in as another little kid. I'm gonna come back in as a kid one time, and I'm gonna be a scholar before I make it to 3 years old. They call those old souls, and so. Blessings to each and every one of you guys. We're going to take a few minutes for a break like we normally do, and then hopefully we'll bless you with some songs, and we'll come back and we'll see what Patanjali's been adding to us, how that adds in to what Yeshua's been sowing here for us. Shalom and blessings to you. We'll be back in just a few minutes. each and every one of you. I hope that you can find some truth and blessing in the midst of those words. Many times, you know, I think he told us, he warned us about the troubling effect, because it can manifest in everyone completely different and at different days in each of us differently. And so, but the truth is that putting that thought in our minds, if we allow it to come in, is the beginning catalyst. It is the mustard seed in the prepared soil. The metaphor was about your mind. And so we're gonna start off today with a song, and you know, unfortunately, our thought processes and the thoughts that we have may not be exactly as they should be for lots of reasons. And the name of the first song we're going to do is called Change It.
If time is all that we got,
Truly, we are blessed. I hope you feel the presence and the blessing that we are all gifted with. What an amazing concept, and I know for some of you, you have been experiencing, and I would, and I will, and I hope that we're on the progression to all humanity coming to a place of understanding. How much different might our lives be if nothing else was changed, if we could all just change that one concept of how we view the world? What might the society look like if people really did genuinely love each other and genuinely respect each other? You know, most of the things that we go through in life, and of course you can learn to live in drama, and you can learn how to constantly need your life to be upset as a motivator. And while it is a motivator, I don't say it's a good motivator, but it sure motivates lots of people's lives. And so how much more wonderful if we had love as our motivator? And what if we really did love each other? What if we really could come to a place of feeling safe enough that it's okay if somebody hurts me, I still am going to choose to love. And so I just, all the fullness of what Yahusha, I don't know that we've even really begun hardly, but other than to touch the tip of the iceberg, but all of the amazing things that he was about in his simple little sayings are just absolutely earth-shattering if we begin to put those in our life. Because I guarantee you, if you begin to search for that higher self, and then if you can learn that higher self always is only about doing what's right, you will have the greatest guide that has ever existed in humanity, and that is your higher self. And so it is a true saying, and the name of this next song is about that. More love and more power. More love equals more power. And that, my friend, is a truth you can live with.
More love, more power, more of you in my life.
1, 2, 3,
More love, more power, more of you in my life. More love, more power, more of you in my life. Now the worship you with all of my
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. What a wonderful day it is indeed. Indeed, more love and more power in our lives. And you know what's so beautiful about this? It's funny is as we learn and there's so many pieces that are out there for us to just glean from and pull into ourselves. But really the life that all of us want has existed for us. We just had no idea about how to access it. I think the mass majority of people, although we can learn how to live unhappy lives, but the mass majority of people, what they really desire anyways, is to learn how to live a peaceful life. Wouldn't it be wonderful if life just had a purpose? If life was wonderful and you could be peaceful and yeah, things happen, but they're not bigger than you, and you learn how to just walk through those roadblocks in our life that sometimes cause us to get tripped up and consternated and aggravated and angry, and then we just carry that cycle on, and it's just like the tide in the ocean, friends. It started and it ain't ever stopped. And when you get on that cycle, when you get into living that life, typically once you get into it, it's really hard to get out of. Here's the beauty about the other side of it. When you get into this life, when you get into recognizing who you are and how wonderful and amazing and loved and huge, and doesn't mean every day's perfect, but every day's perfect anyways, and that also has a addictive effect, and you can learn to grow into that. So wouldn't it be wonderful if every day was full of the sickness of joy and happiness? What an amazing day. I can't imagine what it would be like to wake up and every day is wonderful no matter what you're going through. But I believe that's the life that we're supposed to be living. And so the world will try to pull you down. The name of the next song is Won't Back Down, and it often fits with that in our life. We have to fight to maintain our peace and our joy and happiness, or the world will suck us back into the strife and the drama and the unhappiness and the anger. So it's certainly a battle. Won't back down.
Well, I won't back down. No,
day it is to be alive. Do you feel full inside? Man, I'm so thankful for the love and the kindness that Source has shown. Many things that have been exacerbations and frustrations and aggravations and don't seem to have the power that they had at one time. And I know that that's a constant progression, all of us. If we continue to walk towards the light, our light will begin to get brighter and brighter and brighter. But it is a process, and we have to, unfortunately, sometimes we have to obey processes. It's a struggle. It's the struggle to get there, not the arriving, because it's in the struggle to get there that we truly, truly learn how to survive walking with Him. And so, access your inner self. It really is amazing the phenomenal insight that your higher self has. And the more that we give that credence and the more that we do so, the more that we will see the truth that Source wants us to see. And so the name of the next song we're going to do, it goes right down the line with this. The name of the song is Always.
My foes are many, they rise against me, but My help comes from our source. I lift my eyes up. My help comes from our source.
Hallelujah. Well, I hope you guys have been blessed. We're going to take a few minutes and then we'll be back and we'll take a look and see a little bit of what Patanjali has to add to the wonderful wealth of beauty and truth that's been shared with us. It's been quite amazing to me to meet this new person, this new Yeshua, speaking the same words, but wow, the power and the concepts are so much more powerful. So peace and shalom to each and every one of you. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Shalom to each and every one of you again. I hope you guys have been blessed. I hope that you heard some truth even in the music. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope it helps you. So we're back to how to know God, and many people, and I think I certainly was one of those many people. Wow, it's a heavy construct that they've put on our minds about our Creator and our source. That's turning all of this greatness into basically one person that's sitting in the heavens, and it now makes sense why, so many have asked the questions. It's infinitely larger than we can imagine. And so we're going through the phases right now, basically of liberation. And in the freedom comes from truth. If you use Yeshua's words, that those who know the truth will set them free. And while that certainly wasn't about what Christianity made it out to be, the words are still just as powerful. And so then we have to deal with that. What is the truth? And when we find that, then we have found freedom. And the freedom is that we are. How amazing that is. I mean, how many lives on this earth people are walking around in depression and discouragement and anxiety with no peace or confidence in that they're here and that they have a place here, and that there's a purpose in all of this. And so if you are one that have been that, I think all of us have, but I think if you are one that are that, then I say shalom or completeness to you, that we are finding that the lies have been many, but when it's all said and done, friends, what an amazing blessing it is that we came to this time and got an opportunity to see the truth, that we truly can look at ourselves without being prideful and see ourselves as greatness and beauty and light and love and kindness and goodness and humility, and if we choose, we can be all those things and still be significant. And so we left off in Aphorism 24 the other day and last week, and Aphorism 24 reads like this: though the mind has innumerable impressions and desires, and I think all of us know that's true, it acts only to serve another, the Atman. For being a compound substance, it cannot act independently and for its own sake. And so every combination of individuals or forces in this world has to have a purpose for its action or existence. Otherwise, it would be just a meaningless, functionless collection of objects brought together haphazardly. And this purpose must be external to itself. And so we saw this morning that we've been given, if we haven't ever had the revelation of it, for me it was very clear and very loud, that the external purpose is really summed up in the whole mustard tree picture, the metaphor. What is the purpose? Well, the purpose isn't only about getting the beam out of your eye. The real hidden purpose of all of our lives is to help those around us. And when we begin to see that, you see Yeshua, did he go to people who didn't want his help? Of course he did. Did he help some of them? I'm quite sure that he did. But irrespective of that, that was what kept driving him, was loving other people. And if we choose to share and to pick up where he was at, then it also will be our driving force. And so that's what gives us purpose. And that's a pretty foreign concept. If you will ponder and contemplate on that thought process, what might it really mean for me to only have an desire to exist to help other people? If you haven't thought that, you should. It's quite amazing. And so a Congress or Parliament would be just a collection of noisy individuals in a room if it did not have the purpose of legislating for a community. A house is just a pile of materials until an owner comes to inhabit and enjoy it. So with our mind, that yelling parliament of conflicting interests and desires, it is nothing but a madhouse until it is called to order. It can only become purposive by the external will of your higher self. Wow, that's a huge blessing, man. That's a huge blessing. Is it surprising to you now that there's so many people's lives that live lives in turmoil? Of course, the reality that the higher self even exists in them is non-existent in our society for the most part. Much less that we have, that all of us have a purpose and a calling, and it's all the same purpose and calling. And in the middle of that, we get to experience lots of things down here, which is wonderful and good. Even more so, it's even gooder when we understand our calling and accept it and then get to enjoy those things with it. So, Aphorism 25 says, the man of discrimination ceases to regard the mind as the Atman. Your higher self and your mind are not the same. There is a separation. Your mind is the one that has all of these thoughts. Your higher self, remember, and this has been really big over this past week. I've thought about this multiple times. Your higher self never lowers itself to the status of your mind. So anytime when your mind has thoughts, maybe if we learn how to program ourselves in meditation, contemplation, if we learned how to ask ourselves, I've heard many metaphysical people that I've listened to now say, well, I just stop and check in with myself. And maybe that doesn't mean anything until you kind of put those two things together. But what they're saying is they learn how to control their mind by looking inside to that higher self. Sometimes our mind says it's right, and our higher self says, don't do it. And if we learned how to check in with that more often, then we would also learn how to what? We would learn how to protect ourselves, because now things that we used to would do, we won't do anymore, you know? And because our mind has been telling us, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do that. Don't go there. Don't say that. Don't be that. Don't act like that. Don't do that. And we go, oh man, I'm so tired of that thing telling me to stop. I just want to do what I want to do. All of us have experienced that, probably a lot more than we really realize. As you begin, I see these things get bigger the more. Once the light comes on to it, then all of a sudden I go, wow, I didn't realize that was functioning in my life so much, you know. And so, but you have to get to the point that you see it first. And so, when the mind is bent on the practice of discrimination, it moves towards liberation. What an amazing thought process. I'm sure that most of us probably have never really entertained that thought or pondered or contemplated on it. That's a positive facet of discrimination. When we look at it in that concept, it's not discriminating against other people per se, but powerful nonetheless. So there are things that we have to recognize are not good. And when our mind becomes set on that, on doing what's right, you bring your mind and your higher self into alignment. Remember, we already know that the Atman, or the higher self, does not have the capacity to not do good. It's always telling us to do good. It's always telling us what right is, even when we don't want right. Oftentimes, if we be honest with ourselves, we don't really want the truth. We want what we think is good or right or pleasurable or whatever the case may be. You know, it is that voice in the back of your head when you're about to do something that you know you shouldn't do, that tells you don't do it, and you say, well, I'm going to do it anyways.
Isn't this akin to the fasting of the world, kind of?
I think that Dave is asking, doesn't this kind of tie in with the thing Yeshua was talking about, of fasting with the world? Yeah, I think the discrimination is very much a form of that, Dave. And it's we have to learn how to do it. You know, it's a learn. All of this is really, our higher self is always existent. I think the real discipline of life comes from us learning how to make our mind line up with our higher self when our mind really wants something otherwise. And that is where you can see the significance of the struggle with the spirit and the carnal, you know. So I think that's absolutely positive, you know, that those two. And so 27, distractions due to past impressions may arise if the mind relaxes its discrimination even a little. So we do have to be single of mind. We do have to make a decision. There's a million different metaphors or pictures that you could draw, but whatever the case may be, it would be like the person who grew up and had a job all of their life, you know, cleaning toilets, and that's like the most base thing. And this person, for some reason, because they were such an exceptional toilet cleaner, but they get an opportunity. They really knew inside of them they could be much more than just a toilet cleaner. And so they worked and they went to school and they got a job, and they were doing something else to where they didn't feel the constraints of that position, only to have somebody come and go, you know, we acknowledge that you were the best toilet cleaner that there is, and we want to hire you to clean toilets. That battle's always going to be there. Maybe your life it was something else, whatever it is that you've done, however your mind functions. But you've been doing this thing, but that's also been the thing that you've been trying to get away from all this time, and you get away from it, and then immediately what happens? Something happens in your life to try to draw you back into it. For people who have lived in drama most of their life, they grew up in a family. The family had a lot of drama. There was a lot of bickering and arguing and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And you get out of that and find someone that makes you happy, and so you have peace. But you know as well as I do, as soon as you start looking for peace, drama's going to chase you down. And now it's going to happen in the Walmart parking lot or at the restaurant or, you know, somewhere else. But it's always that thing trying to draw you back. You cannot let your discrimination down. You have to say, no, I'm not interested in going back over there. This is the guy that used to be the whatever, the liar, the thief, the whatever. I used to be that thing, and that thing is there. You remember a few weeks ago we found that these tendencies of an individual human, we can't afford to be naive, because that's where we let our discrimination down. Because you have to be aware that tendency, whatever your personal tendency is, that personal tendency is always there. We only learn how to overpower it, or we learn how to allow it to overpower us. It's not like it ever goes away. It's always there in the back of your mind. You'll have those thoughts. You know, I was driving down the road and God healed me amazingly from smoking cigarettes 25 years ago, and I haven't had many times during the course of that time, but I'll never forget it. I was driving to the church from Lake Travis on Highway 290, and there was a billboard, and it was a billboard of cigarettes. And just out of the blue now, I'm driving, and something in my head says, you ought to smoke a cigarette. And so that's that tendency. I did that for so long, for years, it was a habit. I acknowledged it. I know that God healed me because I'd have died from them, and yet there was this tendency inside of me if I didn't. So what happened? My higher mind then had to come in, or my mind would have said, well, that the minute you entertain the thought, you're doomed, right? So I couldn't entertain the thought. I said no. And then, so weird enough that I would even be saying this today, the same thing happened yesterday. I was getting out at the bank, and something about smoking cigarettes popped up, and I thought, what the heck are you doing? You don't smoke. And I just let it go, and I went on. But if we let those thoughts creep up and creep into us, then they'll drag us right back in to where we've been. So for us, walking the right path is discipline. Because you're going to have those times when those things that you struggle with try to revisit themselves, It's like the guy who dated a narcissistic girl and he can't get rid of her, and it's like, no, I don't want any more of that nonsense, but they don't want to let go. And that's exactly how our minds work. We really do. The reality of addiction is really a lot more versed. We see the bad aspects where somebody gets addicted to a drug or something like that. But we have that present in us, whatever the case may be. It doesn't always have to be a drug, and it doesn't have to be something that, you can overcome. You can learn to overcome it. You just have to allow your higher self to work in you. And so they may be overcome in the same manner as the obstacles to enlightenment are. So there's the picture. It doesn't tell us specifically that they ever go away. We just learn how to overcome them. In the same way, we learn how to overcome the obstacles that keep us from enlightenment. And so that's, an amazing, beautiful thing. By meditation and by resolving the mind back into its primal cause, that is, attaining samadhi, as explained in Chapter 2, Aphorisms 10 and 11, there is a saying in Sri Ramakrishna that one needs to continue fanning oneself on hot days, but that it becomes unnecessary when the spring breeze blows. When one attains illumination, the breeze of grace is continually felt, and the fanning, the constant practice of discrimination, is no longer needed. Okay? He who remains undistracted, even when he is in possession of all of the psychic powers, achieves as a result of perfect discrimination the samadhi which is called the cloud of virtue, to where we can be so transformed that the powers of those things have no effect on us anymore. And I don't know about you guys, wouldn't that be a really peaceful place if you were never perpetrated with those feelings that cause us to have angst? That on one side, I really want to do it, but on the other side, part of me says, no, don't. That's one of the worst battles that we go, and all of us go through that constantly. I don't want to do it. Oh, but I want to do it. And then we get in the middle of that battle inside of ourselves. And so part of this whole thing of attaining, and it does come from resting in yourself. It does come from resting and being quiet and meditating and entertaining your mind and listening to your higher self, that's still small voice, your spirit guide. quite amazing, man. The more that we learn to do that, I think also the more focused we are on the outcome of those things instead of the outcome that we might get from something pleasurable that we know is not good for us. And so there's pleasure there. Obviously, even, even for people that like pain, the pain is the source of the pleasure for them. For others, pain is a source of deterrent. But for some people, they like pain. And so whatever the case may be in each individual situation, you're going to have that. And so he who remains undistracted, even when he is in possession of all of the psychic powers, achieves as a result of perfect discrimination that samadhi which is called the cloud of virtue. Thence comes cessation of ignorance, the cause of suffering, and freedom from the power of karma, because we are no longer allowing ourselves to do the things that cause karma. It's a self-control thing, and it's all mental. Your body doesn't do anything wrong. Your body does what your mind tells you to. If my mind tells my hand to pick this rock up, that it hasn't done anything wrong. My hand was just obedient to what my mind said. But it's also applicable in every other bad scenario we can put ourselves in. So there comes a place then when we what? When we gain that power that we no longer. How do we overcome karma? We overcome karma by not ever allowing ourselves to be so distracted that we fall back into those things that cause karma. And of course, the context there is typically has to do with the negative aspect. We really should think, and we certainly should remind ourselves constantly that there is also, if you would, karma for good things. That's the kind of karma we should be trying to accrue. And that doesn't stop either. So it really is the changing your focus, as you would if the fasting of the world. You quit focusing on this all the time and you start focusing on this. And I think that's where the tie with the higher self also ends up. What if we really focused on, what if we could really allow ourselves to believe that we are love and light? If you get convinced of that, I guarantee you, friends, a lot of the struggles you have in life will cease to happen. Why? Because you're too focused on being a good, kind person. You're focused on forgiving. You're focused on trying to help people, and you're not focused on what you can get out of the situation. Well, it's really a beautiful place. All of us should be aspiring to come to that. And so then comes the cessation of ignorance. We're no longer ignorant. We know that if we let our guard down, we know if we go back into that, you know what the outcome's going to be. And those things are the cause of suffering and then freedom from the power of karma. When a yogi cannot be turned aside from the path of discrimination, even when he is faced by the terrible temptations arising from possession of the psychic powers, the knowledge is said to shower down upon him like a rain cloud, a cloud of virtue, pouring down liberation and the bliss of God. So there is, in this whole thing that we've been going through, all of these, it's just a very slow journey to take us to a place where we learn to control ourselves so that we value the good and the right and the just more than we value whatever the excitement, the fun, whatever you want to call it. It really is in that way is a paradigm shift of what you look at. If you enjoy being good and kind and light and love, then that's where you'll focus your attention, and of course that's where you'll apply yourself. If you focus on only having fun carnally or doing whatever, then that's where your mind will focus on, and of course you get the fruit of that. And so then the whole universe, and I said this early this morning, and yet here we are again, friends. There's more to this picture about the universe. I pondered a thing that Paul said yesterday while I was driving, And it's actually Third Day does a song where they use this line, and it's absolutely beautiful, but it is infinitely bigger than we understand from a Christian perspective. And in the song, the line goes like, the universe declares his majesty, he is holy. And while I realize they don't really understand what they're saying, that's still a really amazing. We don't understand the concept of universe, that we are in a universe and we are interacting with the universe. We are just a piece of the universe, the whole, the all. And so when you begin to see that, it begins to change things. And no question, for me anyways, there's no question that revelation was really huge. It's taken quite a few months and I haven't still got it all sorted out. I'm still swishing the wine and smelling it, and it's breathing and expanding, and I hope it continues to. So the whole universe, with all of its objects of sense, knowledge, becomes as nothing in comparison to that infinite knowledge which is free from all obstructions and impurities. To man in his ordinary sense consciousness, the universe seems full of secrets. And to those that are awake, there is no secrets. The all knows. There seems so infinitely much to be discovered and known. Every object is an invitation to study. He is overcome by a sense of his own ignorance. But to the illuminated yogi, the universe does not seem at all mysterious. And so maybe I just diagnosed by reading that my own phase, because I'm starting to see, wow, the universe is something that is part of me, that I interact with. It's not this scary thing that we don't know anything about. And he is overcome by a sense of his own ignorance, and I've certainly, if I'm not in that stage still, I've certainly been in that stage. But to the illuminated yogi, the universe does not seem at all mysterious. It is said that if you know clay, you know the nature of everything that is made of clay. So if you know the Atman, your higher self, you know the nature of everything in the universe. Think about that now. Think about what if you knew that you were of a benevolent goodness, of loving kindness. And we hear all those things in the Bible about God. God is good and he's kind and he's loving. What they're actually doing is they're actually defining what the universe is. But we don't have that picture. And so as we begin to gain that picture, all of a sudden everything that exists becomes part of us and at peace with us, and it's not contradictory. And that's a really good place to be. So if you know the Atman, you know the nature of everything in the universe, then all of the painstaking researches of science seem like efforts of a child to empty the ocean with a spoon. 32. Then the sequence of mutations of the gunas comes to an end, for they have fulfilled their purpose. This is the sequence of the mutations which takes place at every moment, but which are only perceived at the end of the series. The gunas, as have been said, chapter 2, Aphorism 18, form this universe in order that the experiencer may experience it, and thus become liberated. When liberation is achieved, the gunas have fulfilled their purpose. Time is a sequence of moments, and hence a sequence of the mutations of the gunas which take place at every moment. We only become aware of these moment changes at intervals when a whole series of them has resulted in a mutation which is sufficiently remarkable to be apparent to our senses. And of course, obviously, some are more sensitive to those things than others would be. For example, We are not aware from moment to moment that a bud is opening, but at the end of a series, which may take several hours, we recognize the mutation, the blossoming flower. The same thing happens at the end of a series of impressions and thoughts leading to a decision or an idea. But for the illuminated soul, time has no reality. There is no sequence in his thought pattern. He controls time as it were and knows past, present, and future like a flash in the eternal now. And so, since the gunas no longer have any purpose to serve for the higher self, they resolve themselves into prakriti. This is liberation. The Atman shines forth in its own pristine nature as pure consciousness. And I don't know about you guys, if you aren't desirous of moving to a place of pure consciousness, then I definitely think that you have a lot of struggle in front of you. But what an amazing idea, just the concept that I might be greater than anything that I've ever imagined. And that we all, it's not, when I say that, it's not just speaking, those are my revelations with myself, but the reality that all of us really are that way. It changes how you look at people. You know, it doesn't say that everything people do is right. It doesn't say that everybody quit doing wrong all of a sudden because you gained some level of enlightenment. It simply means that you are able and cognitive to be able to make sense of things that otherwise made no sense. And there's many of those that make no sense. Like, you know, we live in a world full of things that make no sense. And so we shall let Swami Vivekananda have the last word. Nature, Prakriti's task is done. This unselfish task which our sweet nurse nature had imposed upon herself. She gently took the self-forgetting soul by the hand, as it were, and showed him all of the experiences in the universe, all manifestation, bringing him higher and higher through various bodies, till his lost glory came back. Wow. Guys, we're on a journey. I wish I could tell you today how amazing you really are. I wish I could tell all of us. I wish we could tell all humanity how amazing we really are. Are we acting up to that amazement? Now, that's a different story. But irrespective of whether we are acting up to it or not, that's what we are. So how really, I guess, sad and shameful it is that we are of such high esteem and yet we function at such low levels sometimes. Thank goodness that we live in the time that we do, dear friend. If you are living in this day, you are blessed because we are in the middle of a spiritual revolution and revelation at the same time. The world is concerned about the awakening that's going on. And it is happening at many levels. And it's happening in places that it, quote unquote, never was expected to happen or never has really happened in the past. And so it truly is an amazing time. The things that you're seeing, the things that you're hearing. I mean, you know, they kill people just like me for thousands of years for saying the things, for telling you that you're beautiful and amazing and supernatural and that you're eternal and you don't need to worry anymore. Quit worrying about dying. When the body falls dead, you're going to smile and come back in again and experience something totally different. And so then the kind mother went back the same way she came for others who have also lost their way in the trackless desert of life. This universe doesn't stop, friends. If you're one today and you are starting to awaken, Mother has brought you this far. And when you get to a certain point where you can hopefully maintain for yourself, then Mother will let you go, and she will go and visit another, and she will go and visit another, and she will go and visit another. And what we see, we are blessed to get to live in this time because Mother Earth is not only bringing, I think there must be an acceleration, something somewhere that's going on all of a sudden poof all over the place. Pieces are enlightening. Many of them not even in the spiritual context. But you see it in the behaviors of people. And do we see bad behaviors? Of course we do. What is our mind typically programmed to pay attention to? We pay attention. What if all of the news stations quit doing everything that was negative, and they started showing the heights of humanity, and that was all you were inundated with when you cut the TV on, was this glorious thing that this person did over here? You know, what about the guy that now in our society he ends up in jail, or he ends up being attacked because he protected some woman that some guy was beating on? You know, and what if we saw that from the proper perspective of someone who saw another human being and went to their aid and gave up and protected? What do you think would happen? Do you know why they don't do that? Because they don't want the outcome that's coming. They've been fighting it for thousands of years. That's why they had to shut all of this mystical stuff down and burn it all and destroy it. Folks, I don't know if you understand how blessed you are that we got an opportunity to read the Nag Hammadi text. Those things were hidden. As far as I know, these are the most extent revelations left of all that existed on this earth. The Catholic Church destroyed every one of them. That's why we don't have them. It's not because they didn't exist. It's because they've been burnt. So we couldn't read them and find out who we really were. Wow. Thank you. That's all I have to say. See, I see supernatural written all over that. Oh, it was just accidental that one little urn happened to get found out in the middle of Egypt. Yeah, just accidental that all these things happened to be found over in some caves out in Qumran. Just accidental. Just happenstance, Or maybe it was orchestrated exactly at the perfect time. Hidden treasures waiting for the right time. And I believe that's the truth. This is the right time. You are blessed if you are hearing and being exposed the bondage that we've all lived in, and you truly are blessed. And so, thus is she working without beginning and without end. It wasn't a long time for that day to come, friends, that they found those texts. It was always the day that the texts were going to be found. We just happened not to know it. And thus is she working without beginning and without end, and thus through pain and pleasure and pain, through good and evil, the infinite rivers of souls is flowing into the ocean of perfection. And look at it. Did you see this last statement? Self-realization. You want to know how to find God? Find yourself. You will know the kingdom. That's exactly what Yahusha said. We saw that this morning. How? How do you find the kingdom? You find the kingdom by finding you. Because the kingdom of God isn't external. The kingdom of God is within you. Wow. That's a huge statement. So, next week we will we'll begin to take a look at a different piece. The concept is this. As a man thinketh. Okay, so we have a revelation. Dave, you have a revelation, brother. There's a higher self inside of you. You probably don't know him, but you need to. Suzanne, Mike, Mariana, Rob, every one of you out there. We have a higher self and we might need to know him. Here's the next piece that we're going to put with this. How to know God. All of this is about you. This is a fundamental exploration of who am I, really. Not who I told I was, not who society made me, not what my parents programmed me into. Who am I really? And so I think we're going to take a look next week at a concept of, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Shalom to each and every one of you. I hope you've been blessed. We are truly blessed. Truly blessed. All of us are blessed. And so I hope you guys have an amazing week. I hope you enjoy this amazing sunshine. We're going to hit the 90s up here in Missouri, USA. And so I hope you guys have a wonderful week. We put our hands together, bring our hearts together in one, and we say to you, Namaste.